Mason Blackwood sat in the sterile military hospital tent, his hands steady as he stitched a wound on a young Afghan girl's arm. The desert heat pressed against the canvas walls, but inside his mind was clear, focused on each precise movement of the needle. "You're doing great, sweetie," he murmured in Pashto, the words flowing naturally after 3 tours. The girl's mother watched anxiously from beside the cot, her dark eyes following his every move. This was where Mason felt most at home, not in his parents' opulent mansion back in Colorado, but here in the dust and reality of a forward operating base. The radio crackled to life. "Doc, we've got incoming wounded. 3 internationals caught in an ambush." "Almost done here," Mason replied, tying off the final stitch. He gave the girl a reassuring smile and handed her mother aftercare instructions in Pashto. "Keep it clean, bring her back in 3 days." The sound of helicopter rotors grew louder as Mason prepared his trauma bay. His team moved with practiced efficiency, setting up 4 lines and prepping emergency supplies. The first stretcher burst through the tent flap, carried by 2 Marines. "Female, early 30s, shrapnel wounds to right shoulder and torso," one called out. She shielded a kid when the RPG hit their vehicle. Mason's eyes met those of the wounded woman. Despite the pain etched across her face, there was a fierce intelligence in her gaze. Blood matted her blonde hair, but she managed a grimace that might have been attempting humor. "I'm Jennifer," she gasped as Mason cut away her shirt to assess the wounds. "Jennifer Reeves. Usually I'm the one asking the questions." "War correspondent?" Mason probed the wounds carefully, cataloging damage. "These need to come out before infection sets in. I'm going to give you something for the pain." "No morphine." Jennifer gritted her teeth. "Need to file my story. Editor's waiting." Mason paused, syringe in hand. "Your dedication is admirable, but these fragments are deep. It's going to hurt." "Good." Jennifer's laugh turned into a cough. "Makes for better writing. Real experience, you know." Against his better judgment, Mason found himself respecting her determination. He'd treated countless soldiers and civilians, but something about her unflinching gaze caught his attention. "Tell you what," he said, prepping his instruments. "You let me give you local anesthetic, and I'll tell you about the worst case I ever treated." Exclusive interview. Jennifer's eyes lit up despite the pain. "Deal. But make it good. Document. My readers expect quality content." As Mason worked to remove the shrapnel, he told her about a multiple amputation case from his first tour. Jennifer asked sharp, insightful questions between grimaces, showing genuine interest in the medical and human aspects of his work. "You're different," she observed as he placed the final bandage. "Most doctors here treat me like an inconvenience. The annoying reporter getting in their way." "Most reporters don't take RPG fragments protecting local kids," Mason countered. "You're different too." Their conversation was interrupted by more incoming casualties. Mason worked through the night, but he found himself returning to check on Jennifer between cases. She was typing one-handed on a battered laptop, her bandaged shoulder propped on pillows. "Don't you ever rest?" he asked during one visit, bringing her water. "Same could ask you," Jennifer replied without looking up. "How many hours you been on duty?" "Lost count somewhere yesterday." Mason sank into the chair beside her cot. "But someone's got to keep you journalists alive to tell the stories." Jennifer saved her document and turned to face him. "Why'd you choose this?" "Combat medicine. Could be making bank in some cushy private practice." The question made Mason think of his father's disappointment when he'd enlisted instead of joining the family's social circle of doctors and lawyers. "Out here, everything's real," he finally said. "No pretense, no social games. Just people needing help and others trying to give it." "Sounds like there's a story there." Jennifer's reporter instincts sparked. "Cushy background yourself?" Mason was surprised to find himself telling her about growing up in the Blackwood family, about his father's obsession with appearances and his mother's carefully curated social life. Jennifer listened without judgment, occasionally asking questions that cut straight to the heart of his experiences. "You're good at that," he observed. "Getting people to open up." "It's about trust," Jennifer replied. "Same as medicine, really. People have to believe you're genuinely interested in their story, not just mining them for details." Their conversations continued over the next week as Jennifer recovered. She told him about her Montana childhood, about fighting her way into journalism against her rancher father's wishes. Mason found himself sharing things he'd never told anyone: the weight of losing patients, the struggle to maintain compassion in the face of endless trauma. One night, unable to sleep, they sat outside the medical tent watching tracer fire light up the distant mountains. Jennifer had brought them coffee from the mess tent, the bitter liquid a poor substitute for real coffee, but welcome nonetheless. "This is unreal," Jennifer mused, gesturing at the scene with her good arm. "Most people back home, they see war through a TV screen. They don't understand the reality of it." Mason finished. "The way it gets into your bones." "Exactly." Jennifer turned to look at him. "That's why I do this. Try to show the human side of it all. Not just statistics and strategic objectives, but the actual people living and dying here." Mason understood completely. It was the same reason he'd chosen combat medicine over his father's suggested career path. Here, stripped of social pretense, people revealed their true nature. Jennifer had shown hers by shielding that child, by refusing to let pain stop her from telling important stories. Their relationship evolved naturally after that night. Jennifer brought him coffee during his night shifts, and they'd talk about everything and nothing. She understood his need for silence after difficult cases, sitting with him without demanding explanations or offering empty comfort. When Mason lost his best friend Mike in a helicopter crash, Jennifer found him in his quarters, staring blankly at the wall. She didn't say anything, just sat beside him and held his hand. That night, when the nightmares came, she was there, her presence anchoring him to reality. "I couldn't save him," Mason whispered in the darkness. "I should have been there." "You can't save everyone," Jennifer replied softly. "But you keep trying anyway. That's what matters." As her shoulder healed, Jennifer continued reporting from the base, but she always made time to visit the medical tent. Mason found himself looking forward to their conversations, to the way she challenged his thinking and made him laugh despite the chaos around them. The day Jennifer was cleared to return to active reporting, she kissed Mason goodbye outside the medical tent. "Don't get too comfortable, Doc," she smiled. "You haven't heard the last of me." "Be careful out there," Mason called after her. "I'd rather not see you on my operating table again." "No promises," Jennifer waved with her good arm. "But I'll try to come back in one piece." True to her word, Jennifer returned regularly to the base, officially to cover medical stories, but increasingly to spend time with Mason. Their relationship deepened through shared experiences and understanding, built on a foundation of mutual respect and genuine connection. When Mason's tour ended, the decision to build a life together came naturally. They chose Colorado Springs, close enough to Denver for Jennifer's work, but far from the suffocating influence of Mason's family. His experience earned him a position at Memorial Hospital's Trauma Center, while Jennifer's war coverage gained national recognition. Their home was modest by Blackwood standards, a comfortable house with a view of the mountains. Mason's parents, Richard and Eleanor, made their disappointment clear during their first visit. "Really, darling?" Eleanor surveyed the kitchen with barely concealed disdain. "You could afford something much more suitable. The country club area has several lovely properties available." "This is suitable, Mother," Mason replied firmly. "It's exactly what we want." Jennifer squeezed his hand under the table, understanding without words the pressure he felt. Later, after his parents left, she found him in their small garden, looking at the mountains. "You okay?" she asked, wrapping her arms around him from behind. "Yeah." Mason leaned back into her embrace. "Just wondering if I'll ever be what they want me to be." "Don't." Jennifer turned him to face her. "You're exactly who you should be. They'll either accept that or they won't." Mason kissed her forehead, grateful for her unwavering support. They'd built their relationship on truth and understanding, far from the superficial connections his parents valued. He believed they could weather any storm together, secure in their foundation of trust. He couldn't have known then how thoroughly that trust would be tested, or how completely it would shatter. Chapter 2. The Unraveling. Dr. Russell Walsh strode through Memorial Hospital's corridors like he owned them, his Harvard credentials and surgical innovation awards lending him an aura of untouchable excellence. Mason noticed the change in atmosphere immediately. Nurses straightened their postures, junior doctors scrambled to appear busy, and administrators hovered attentively whenever Walsh appeared. "Blackwood," Walsh caught Mason after a trauma conference. "Heard you did some interesting work with battlefield triage protocols. We should discuss it over drinks sometime." Mason studied the man carefully. Walsh's reputation preceded him, brilliant surgeon, accomplished mountaineer, and the hospital board's newest golden boy. Something about his practiced charm set off warning bells in Mason's mind, reminding him of his father's social maneuvering. Sure, Mason replied neutrally. When schedules aligned, he mentioned the encounter to Jennifer that evening over dinner. She seemed unusually interested. Her reporter's instincts sparked. Russell Walsh, the pioneering trauma surgeon. Jennifer leaned forward. I've been trying to get an interview with him for months. His work on emergency medicine in extreme environments could make an amazing feature. Mason pushed his pasta around his plate. There's something off about him. Too polished, too perfect. Jennifer laughed. Not everyone with social skills is fake, Mason. Some people are just naturally charismatic. The change was subtle at first. Jennifer started working later, citing a series of important stories. Her phone became a constant companion, always face down when Mason was nearby. Their evening conversations grew shorter, her responses distracted. Mason noticed other shifts too. His parents' social events, which they'd usually avoided, suddenly featured Walsh prominently. Eleanor Blackwood particularly doted on him, treating him with the warmth she'd always withheld from her own son. Russell is such a credit to the medical community, Eleanor gushed during one dinner party. So involved in hospital leadership, and his charity work is exemplary. Mason felt Jennifer's attention drift whenever Walsh entered a room. He saw the lingering glances, the private smiles, but trusted her completely. Their relationship was built on understanding and honesty. Surely she would tell him if something was wrong. The charity gala shattered that illusion. Mason watched from across the ballroom as Jennifer and Walsh danced, their bodies closer than strictly necessary, their conversation intimate enough to exclude others. Walsh's hand rested possessively on Jennifer's lower back, and she made no move to discourage him. They make a striking couple, Richard Blackwood commented, appearing beside Mason. Russell understands the importance of social connections. Something you never quite grasped, son. Mason maintained his composure, years of trauma medicine helping him compartmentalize the emotional blow. He focused on the upcoming wilderness rescue training program, throwing himself into preparation as a distraction from his growing suspicions. The truth revealed itself during a mountain rescue operation. A climber was stranded on a difficult route, requiring both medical and technical climbing expertise. Mason and Walsh were called in together, their skills complementing each other despite the underlying tension. During the helicopter ride, Walsh's phone lit up with a message. Mason couldn't help seeing Jennifer's name and the words that destroyed his world. Last night was amazing. I miss you already. The rescue became a study in professional detachment. Mason worked, his military training taking over as he pushed personal feelings aside. The stranded climber survived, oblivious to the drama unfolding above him. That night, Mason began gathering evidence. He installed security cameras at home, tracked Jennifer's movements, and documented patterns he'd previously ignored. The truth was worse than he'd imagined. The affair had been going on for months. Jennifer and Walsh met at upscale hotels, coordinating their stories carefully. They used burner phones to avoid detection, planned their encounters around Mason's hospital shifts. He found emails discussing their future plans, a fresh start somewhere else, away from Mason's issues and emotional baggage. The betrayal cut deeper when Mason discovered his parents' involvement. They'd known about the affair, had even facilitated meetings by inviting both Jennifer and Walsh to social events. Eleanor's sudden interest in hospital functions made terrible sense. She'd been playing matchmaker, helping destroy her son's marriage while maintaining social appearances. The confrontation, when it came, revealed Jennifer's true character. She sat across from Mason in their kitchen, her reporter's composure cracking under the weight of evidence he presented. I never meant to hurt you, she began, but Mason cut her off. Save the story for your readers. His voice was eerily calm. I want the truth for once. Jennifer's expression hardened. The truth? Fine. You're never really here, Mason. Even when you're physically present, part of you is still in Afghanistan. I needed someone who could fully engage with my life, my career. Someone like Walsh. Mason's laugh held no humor. A man who cheats with his colleagues' wives? That's the emotional engagement you wanted. Russell understands ambition. Jennifer shot back. He supports my goals instead of hiding in a modest house, avoiding social connections that could advance both our careers. My parents' social circle, you mean? Mason watched understanding dawn on her face. Yes, I know about their involvement. Eleanor's dinner parties, Richard's strategic introductions. Tell me, was it their idea or Walsh's? Jennifer's silence was answer enough. Mason stood, his decision made. I'll have divorce papers drawn up. Don't worry about your reputation. I won't make it messy. That's what you really care about, isn't it? Appearances. Mason, wait. Jennifer reached for him, but he stepped back. We can talk about this. Maybe counseling. No. Mason's voice was final. We're past that. You, Walsh, my parents, you've made your choices. Now you can live with them. The divorce proceedings proved his parents' ultimate betrayal. They sided openly with Jennifer, providing statements about Mason's troubling tendencies and inability to maintain healthy relationships. They claimed his military service had damaged him, made him unfit for civilian life. The final blow came through his medical fund, $40,000 saved from his military service and hospital work. His parents accessed it through an old power of attorney, emptying it completely. They claimed Jennifer deserved compensation for emotional labor and psychological damage during their marriage. Mason learned the money funded Jennifer and Walsh's honeymoon in the Maldives through hospital gossip. Photos of their beach wedding appeared in local social pages, with Eleanor proudly sharing them online and calling Jennifer the daughter we always wanted. In his apartment that night, Mason stared at his military medals and combat medical citations. His service had taught him that victory required strategy, patience, and perfect execution. Now, facing betrayal on all fronts, those lessons would serve a different purpose. He began gathering intelligence, identifying weaknesses and potential allies. The hospital custodian, Miguel Santos, approached him quietly with security footage showing Walsh stealing prescription medications. Kelly Martinez, Jennifer's former college roommate, revealed a history of similar betrayals. Jennifer had pursued married men before, using their connections to advance her career. The most surprising ally emerged through social media. Claire Walsh, Russell's teenage daughter from his first marriage, reached out with disturbing stories about her father's manipulative behavior and abandonment. These connections would prove crucial in the coming months. Mason's final communication with his parents was brief. You chose your side. Now live with it. Then he disappeared from their social circle, leaving them to wonder what their betrayal would ultimately cost. The game was changing, and Mason intended to play it to win. Chapter 3. The Betrayal Deepens. The divorce proceedings unfolded like a carefully orchestrated character assassination. Jennifer's lawyer, a shark in an expensive suit, painted Mason as a ticking time bomb. Each court session twisted his military service into a liability, his dedication to medicine portrayed as obsession. My client endured years of emotional isolation, the lawyer argued, while Jennifer dabbed convincingly at dry eyes. Mr. Blackwood's PTSD created an environment of hypervigilance and emotional unavailability. My client sought only to maintain her mental health and professional stability. Mason sat silently beside his attorney, watching the performance. Jennifer had chosen her lawyer well. Marcus Sterling specialized in high-profile divorces, known for spinning compelling narratives that played well in the media. Furthermore, Sterling continued, gesturing dramatically. Mr. Blackwood's persistent avoidance of social functions hindered Mrs. Reeves' career advancement. As a journalist, networking is crucial to her profession. Mason's attorney objected, but the damage was calculated. Each statement built a portrait of Mason as damaged goods, unsuitable for civilian life. Jennifer's team had even subpoenaed his military medical records, cherry-picking incidents to support their narrative. Walsh's testimony proved particularly devastating. He spoke with practiced concern, describing Mason's concerning behavior at work. As chief of trauma surgery, I observed numerous instances of hyperarousal and anxiety in Dr. Blackwood, Walsh testified smoothly. While his technical skills are commendable, his reactions to high-stress situations often seemed disproportionate. Mason recognized the strategy. Walsh had deliberately provoked those reactions, creating situations that would trigger stress responses. A missing patient file here, a last-minute surgery schedule change there. Small actions designed to unsettle and document Mason's reactions. During a court recess, Mason overheard his mother speaking with Jennifer in the hallway. "Darling, you're handling this with such grace." Eleanor touched Jennifer's arm sympathetically. "We always worried about Mason's intensity." Richard and I should have intervened sooner. You've been so supportive, Jennifer replied, her voice carrying just far enough to reach Mason. I don't know how I would have managed without you and Richard. The betrayal crystallized further when Mason's attorney discovered the financial manipulation. His parents had accessed his medical fund through an old power of attorney, a document Mason had signed before his first deployment, trusting them to handle emergencies in his absence. They withdrew the entire amount, his attorney explained, spreading bank statements across his desk. Given the timing and their statements supporting your wife, we could challenge this. Mason studied the documents. The $40,000 had been transferred 2 days before Jennifer filed for divorce. His parents had claimed it as compensatory support for Jennifer's years of emotional labor and psychological strain. No, Mason decided. Let them have it. Document everything, but don't challenge it yet. His attorney looked concerned. Mason, this is a clear abuse of power of attorney. We could. I said no. Mason's voice was quiet but firm. Some debts required different kinds of repayment. The final hearing brought one last twist. Jennifer's team presented statements from Mason's parents about his childhood. Richard and Eleanor Blackwood, pillars of Denver society, described their son's troubling tendencies toward isolation and difficulty maintaining healthy relationships. Even as a child, Eleanor testified, dabbing at her eyes with a monogrammed handkerchief, Mason struggled with emotional connections. We spent thousands on therapists, trying to help him engage normally with his peers. Richard's testimony struck deeper. When he chose military service over a proper medical career, we feared something like this might happen. The trauma of war only exacerbated his existing issues. Mason sat through it all, his face impassive. The military had taught him that some battles required strategic retreat before counterattack. He watched his parents hug Jennifer after the hearing, saw them pose for photos that would undoubtedly appear in society columns. That evening, a large envelope arrived at Mason's apartment. Inside were glossy photos of Jennifer and Walsh's Maldives wedding. Eleanor had sent them with a note. We're so happy Jennifer has found true happiness. Perhaps now you'll understand why we had to intervene. The photos showed Jennifer radiant in white, Walsh beaming beside her. Mason's parents featured prominently in several shots, playing their roles as proud, almost in-laws. Eleanor's social media accounts proudly proclaimed Jennifer the daughter we always wanted. Mason's response was simple. He shredded the photos, deleted his parents' contact information, and began making calls. The first was to Miguel Santos, Memorial Hospital's head custodian. Mr. Santos? I need to discuss some security footage you might have access to regarding Dr. Walsh's after-hours activities. The second call went to Kelly Martinez, Jennifer's former roommate from Columbia Journalism School. Kelly? Mason Blackwood. I think we should talk about Jennifer's history with married colleagues at her previous networks. The most unexpected contact came through social media. A message from Claire Walsh, Russell's 16-year-old daughter. Dr. Blackwood, I know what my father did to you. It's not the first time. We should meet. These connections would form the foundation of Mason's response. But first, he sent one final message to his parents. You chose your side. Now live with it. Then he began the careful work of planning his retaliation. The military had taught Mason that revenge, like combat medicine, required preparation, precision, and patience. As he reviewed the evidence his new allies provided, a plan began taking shape. The betrayal had cost him his marriage, his family, and his savings. The repayment would be equally comprehensive, but that would come later. For now, Mason focused on disappearing from their radar. He accepted a position at Denver General Hospital, seemingly retreating from the battlefield. Let them think they'd won. Let them grow comfortable in their victory. After all, the best operations began with the target never suspecting they were in someone's crosshairs. Chapter 4. Pieces in Motion. The stark white walls of Denver General Hospital provided the perfect backdrop for Mason's strategic withdrawal. His new position in the trauma department appeared to be a retreat, exactly the impression he wanted to create. But beneath the surface, each move was calculated. Dr. Blackwood, a nurse approached his station. There's someone asking for you in the consultation room. Says she's Dr. Matthews from Boulder Pharmaceutical Research. Mason checked his watch, right on schedule. He'd tracked Haley Matthews through Claire Walsh's social media posts. Russell's ex-wife had left a digital trail of carefully worded comments about her former husband's professional conduct. Haley Matthews stood as Mason entered, her posture speaking of someone used to laboratory precision. Her dark hair was pulled back severely, and her eyes carried the sharp intelligence of someone who'd learned to see through deception. Dr. Blackwood. She extended her hand. Thank you for agreeing to meet. Dr. Matthews. Mason gestured to a chair. Your message about Russell's beta blocker usage was intriguing. Haley's lips curved slightly. Interesting choice of words. Most people would say concerning. I'm not most people. Mason studied her carefully. And I suspect you didn't drive from Boulder just to discuss medication side effects. No. Haley pulled out a tablet, her fingers moving swiftly across the screen. I came to share this. The document she pulled up detailed a failed drug trial from 5 years ago. Mason scanned the data, noting the patterns of complications and carefully worded explanations. These patient outcomes, he pointed to a specific section. They don't match the published results. Because they were never published, Haley's voice held controlled anger. Russell buried them, used his connections to arrange private settlements. No deaths, but several patients suffered severe complications. Mason leaned back, pieces clicking into place. This is why you left him. Part of it. Haley's fingers tightened on the tablet. That and finding out about his pattern with vulnerable women. Nurses, patients' relatives, anyone he could influence. Their conversation was interrupted by Mason's pager. As he checked it, Haley spoke again. There's someone else you should meet. Marcus Rivera, one of Russell's former patients. He has relevant experience. Mason raised an eyebrow. How relevant? Partial paralysis from a surgical error, Haley replied. Russell's connections buried the malpractice suit, but Marcus kept records. He also knows Lisa Chun, a nurse who reported Russell's medication discrepancies. And they're willing to talk? They've been waiting for someone to listen. Haley stood, smoothing her lab coat. Marcus works with adaptive sports programs now. He's at the recreation center most afternoons. As she turned to leave, Mason called after her. Why help me? You could have stayed out of it. Haley paused at the door. Because some people need to learn that actions have consequences. Russell never did. Mason's network expanded strategically over the next weeks. Miguel Santos, the hospital custodian who'd first shown him evidence of Russell's medication theft, proved invaluable. My brother-in-law Diego, Miguel mentioned during a late shift. He works security at Aspen Heights, that fancy condo where Dr. Walsh lives now. With your ex-wife. Mason kept his expression neutral. Really? See, Miguel nodded. He sees interesting things. People coming and going. Conversations in the parking garage. Kelly Martinez contacted Mason through a secure email. Now a producer at a rival network, she had accumulated years of dirt on Jennifer's journalistic practices. She always was ambitious, Kelly told him over coffee. But the married men thing? That started in grad school. Department heads, senior reporters, anyone who could advance her career. And you kept quiet all this time? Kelly stirred her coffee slowly. Professional courtesy. Plus, she knew things about me too. But after what she did to you, that crossed a line. Mason's most surprising ally emerged through an unexpected channel. Claire Walsh's social media messages became regular, sharing insights into her father's manipulative patterns. He did the same thing to my mom, Claire wrote. Charmed her, isolated her, then discarded her when someone more useful came along. Sound familiar? Through these connections, Mason built a comprehensive understanding of his target's vulnerabilities. Russell's dependence on beta blockers to control his hand tremors. Jennifer's fabricated sources in major stories. His parents' art gallery's questionable authenticity certificates. Each piece of information was a weapon, waiting to be deployed. Mason took detailed notes, organizing them with the same care he'd once used for battlefield medical supplies. The next phase would require perfect timing and coordination. A message from Haley arrived late one night. Marcus and Lisa want to meet. Tomorrow, 3 p.m., Boulder Creek Trail. Mason replied simply, I'll be there. The pieces were in motion. Now it was time to start applying pressure. Chapter 5, The Web Titans. The first anonymous tip reached the hospital board on a Tuesday morning. A carefully worded email expressing concern about Dr. Walsh's erratic behavior during night shifts. Miguel's security footage, showing Russell stumbling slightly after a 36-hour rotation, provided just enough visual evidence to raise doubts. The board has to take these allegations seriously, Dr. Patricia Chun, head of the Ethics Committee, informed Russell during a preliminary hearing. Multiple staff members have reported concerns. Russell's legendary confidence showed its first crack. This is ridiculous. I've never had a single patient complaint. Nevertheless, Dr. Chun consulted her notes. We'll need you to submit to random drug and alcohol screenings. Claire Walsh's involvement deepened after Jennifer's clumsy attempts at bonding. Mason received recordings of their shopping trips. Jennifer's condescension clear in each interaction. You must miss your mom. Jennifer's voice dripped sympathy. At least your dad has me now. I understand these situations. Mason's PTSD made him basically absent too. Claire's response was cold. Interesting comparison. My mom was actually there for me. Until your precious Russell destroyed her life. Jennifer's professional life began fraying at the edges. Sources from her award-winning war corruption story contacted her network, claiming misquotes and fabricated interviews. Kelly Martinez ensured these recantations reached key editorial staff. Ms. Reeves, her editor, called her in one morning. We've received some concerning correspondence about your Taliban financing expose. Jennifer maintained her composure, but Mason recognized the signs of stress in her television appearances, the slight tightness around her eyes, the barely perceptible tremor in her hands. Russell's problems multiplied subtly. His climbing gear developed mysterious issues, a frayed rope here, a loose carabiner there. Never enough to cause serious harm, but sufficient to shake his confidence on difficult routes. I don't understand it, he complained to Jennifer over dinner, unaware that Diego's security cameras caught their conversation. I always check my equipment thoroughly. Strange calls came to his office at odd hours. When answered, only silence greeted him. His car required increasingly frequent repairs for minor but irritating problems. The psychological pressure began showing results. Russell's hands trembled more noticeably during surgeries. He increased his beta-blocker dosage, not realizing the medication had been subtly altered through Haley's pharmaceutical connections. The anxiety should be decreasing, he muttered during a consultation, flexing his fingers. Instead, it's getting worse. Mason's parents faced their own carefully orchestrated challenges. Anonymous tips to regulatory agencies triggered intense audits of Richard's investment firm. Questions arose about Eleanor's art gallery's authentication procedures. Mrs. Blackwood, an insurance investigator, reviewed her records. Several of these certificates show irregularities. We'll need to conduct a thorough review. The pressure built gradually, each small stress combining to create mounting tension. Russell started missing procedures, his legendary steadiness deserting him at crucial moments. Dr. Walsh, the chief of surgery, confronted him after a near miss in the OR. Perhaps you should take some time off. Your recent performance has been concerning. Jennifer's network received more evidence suggesting pattern of fabrication in her stories. Kelly Martinez orchestrated the whispers perfectly, ensuring they reached the right ears at the right moments. Lisa Chin chose her moment carefully, presenting her documentation of Russell's medication discrepancies to the hospital board. Miguel's security footage provided supporting evidence, not enough for immediate action, but sufficient to raise serious concerns. Claire Walsh's recordings of Jennifer's condescending behavior circulated among hospital staff, damaging both Jennifer and Russell's reputations. The teenager's obvious authenticity made her accounts impossible to dismiss. Mason watched it all from a careful distance, sharing occasional dinners with Haley as they monitored the unfolding chaos. Their conversations focused on strategy and timing, but something else began developing between them, a connection built on shared understanding of betrayal and justice. It's not just revenge, Haley observed one evening. It's correction, balancing the scales. Mason nodded, understanding completely. Some lessons can only be taught through consequences. Chapter 6, Breaking Points. The pressure began showing tangible results. Russell's legendary wavered, his hands trembling visibly during a routine appendectomy. The hospital board, already concerned about the drinking allegations, launched a formal investigation. Dr. Walsh, the board chairman, addressed him directly. We've received multiple reports of impaired performance, combined with the previous concerns about substance use. This is absurd, Russell interrupted, but his voice lacked its usual authority. I've given years of exceptional service to this hospital. Nevertheless, the chairman continued, your surgical privileges are suspended pending review. Jennifer's professional reputation suffered by association. Her stories faced increasing scrutiny, her sources questioned, her objectivity doubted. The network assigned another reporter to cross-check her current investigations. Claire Walsh delivered another calculated blow, publicly reconciling with her father only to share damaging information about his past behavior with key hospital board members. He abandoned my mom when she got sick, Claire told Dr. Chun, her teenage sincerity compelling. Just like he's done with all his relationships. Ask Jennifer about his new friendship with that pharmaceutical rep. Lisa Chen's documentation of Russell's medication discrepancies gained new weight when combined with Miguel's security footage. The pattern of missing inventory and altered records became impossible to ignore. The numbers don't lie. Lisa presented her findings to the Pharmacy Review Board. And I'm not the only one who noticed. Jennifer's career imploded spectacularly during a live broadcast. Reporting on a military corruption story, she was blindsided by evidence that she'd fabricated quotes from a key source. Ms. Reeves, her producer, spoke through her earpiece. We're cutting the segment. Return to the studio immediately. The network launched an immediate investigation, suspending her indefinitely. Kelly Martinez ensured the story spread throughout the industry, closing doors before Jennifer could seek alternative positions. Mason's parents reached their breaking point when Richard's firm lost several major clients due to the ongoing audits. Eleanor's gallery faced cancellations from prominent artists concerned about authentication issues. Our reputation is ruined. Eleanor wept during a country club lunch, unaware that her words would spread through the gossip network. After all our years in Denver society, their attempts to access Mason's remaining accounts failed. He'd locked everything down with the same attention to detail he'd learned in combat medicine. The final stroke came through Marcus Rivera. His detailed records of Russell's surgical error, combined with similar cases Haley had documented, reached the state medical board. While these incidents alone might not warrant criminal charges, the board's preliminary findings stated, the pattern of behavior requires expanded investigation. Russell, facing professional ruin in Colorado, grabbed at an unexpected lifeline, a prestigious surgical fellowship in Minnesota. The offer came through Haley's research connections, a perfect trap disguised as an escape route. It's a chance to start fresh, he told Jennifer, his relief palpable. Away from all these baseless accusations. Mason monitored the collapse from a strategic distance, sharing quiet evenings with Haley as they tracked their plan's progress. Their relationship evolved naturally, built on mutual understanding and shared purpose. Jennifer found herself increasingly isolated. Her parents, disgusted by the affair and recent scandals, cut contact. Her professional network, wary of controversy, stopped returning calls. Even Russell grew distant, focused solely on salvaging his career. The foundations of their perfect life crumbled, each piece giving way according to Mason's calculations. The price of betrayal was being paid in full, one carefully orchestrated disaster at a time. Chapter 7. Calculated Risks. Mason adjusted his camera lens, focusing on the private clinic nestled against the foothills outside Denver. Through his viewfinder, he captured a steady stream of luxury vehicles arriving and departing, each one carrying wealthy clients seeking experimental treatments. Got anything interesting? Lisa Chen's voice came through his earpiece. The nurse had positioned herself near the clinic's service entrance, disguised as a delivery worker. Range Rover, diplomatic plates, Mason murmured, snapping photos. Third time this week. His wildlife photography hobby, developed during recovery from Afghanistan, provided perfect cover for surveillance. The long-lens camera documented patterns, unusual delivery schedules, unmarked vehicles, familiar faces entering through side doors. Dr. Walsh just arrived, Lisa reported, looking nervous, carrying his private medical bag. Mason zoomed in, capturing Russell's furtive glances as he entered the clinic. The former surgical star had fallen far from his Harvard-educated heights, now reduced to conducting unauthorized trials in this hidden facility. Later that evening, Mason met with Lisa in a quiet coffee shop, reviewing the evidence they'd gathered. These medication manifests don't match any legal protocols. Lisa pointed to several documents. The combinations they're using, it's dangerous. That's what Haley said. Mason nodded. She analyzed the formulations. They're mixing approved procedures with experimental drugs, hoping to speed up recovery times. And the funding? Traces back to my parents. Mason pulled up financial records on his laptop. Eleanor's art gallery laundered the money through fake sales. Richard's investment firm provided the initial capital. A message from Claire Walsh lit up his phone. Dad tested similar treatments on Mom years ago. I found her old medical records. The complications nearly killed her. The pieces aligned perfectly. Russell's unauthorized trials, his parents' financial involvement, and Jennifer's silence all connected to form a devastating picture. Diego Ramirez's intelligence proved crucial. The security guard had planted listening devices in Jennifer and Russell's condo, revealing another layer of betrayal. She's recording everything. Diego played an audio file during their meeting, planning to expose the clinic once Russell takes that Minnesota position. Thinks she can claim whistleblower status, save her career. Mason leaned back, considering the implications. Does Russell know? Not yet, Diego grinned. But he will. Anonymous tip, maybe? From someone concerned about patient safety. Kelly Martinez's role completed the trap. The network producer orchestrated a brilliant manipulation, leaking hints about Jennifer's planned expose to Russell, while simultaneously feeding information about the clinic to state medical authorities. The board won't be able to ignore this, Kelly assured Mason during a secure video call. Too many prominent names involved. Too much liability. Mason gathered his allies for a final strategy session. In Haley's Boulder laboratory, they reviewed their evidence and coordinated timing. The medication tampering is most serious. Haley highlighted key passages in the clinic's records. They're using my research on beta blockers as a base, but the modifications are reckless. These combinations could cause permanent damage. We have proof of at least 12 cases, Marcus Rivera added, wheeling his chair to the conference table. All wealthy patients, all promised miracle recoveries, all suffering complications that were quietly settled. Lisa Chin spread out her documentation. The hospital board's already suspicious of Russell's prescribing patterns. This will confirm their worst fears. And Jennifer? Claire asked, her young face hard with determination. What about her role? Her own recordings will bury her, Kelly explained. She knew about the dangers for months, but kept quiet. Traded patient safety for exclusive access to society scandals. Mason surveyed his team. Each one had suffered from Russell's actions, each now instrumental in exposing the truth. The next phase would require perfect coordination, but the foundation was set. Start the sequence tomorrow, he decided. Diego, make sure Russell finds out about Jennifer's recordings. Kelly, have your sources ready to verify the clinic's activities. Lisa, coordinate with the medical board. The meeting ended with quiet determination. As his allies departed, Mason felt a familiar calm, the same focus he'd known in combat triage, when lives hung on split-second decisions. Haley remained behind, reviewing data on her tablet. You know this will destroy them all. Russell, Jennifer, your parents, there's no coming back from this. They made their choices, Mason replied. Now they face the consequences. The next morning, Mason's camera captured the beginning of the end, Russell arriving early, agitation visible in his movements. The anonymous tip about Jennifer's betrayal had landed perfectly. The dominoes were falling. Now they would watch them crash. Chapter 8, House of Cards. The clinic investigation exploded like a carefully placed demolition charge. State medical investigators descended on the facility, their arrival timed perfectly with an anonymous data dump to major news outlets. Richard Blackwood learned about the raid during a country club lunch. His phone buzzed with urgent messages from lawyers as reporters gathered outside his investment firm. Mr. Blackwood, a young associate, burst into the dining room. The SEC is in the lobby. They have questions about the clinic funding. Eleanor's art gallery faced simultaneous scrutiny. Insurance investigators swarmed the premises, armed with evidence of falsified authenticity certificates and suspicious sales patterns. Mrs. Blackwood, an investigator, held up documentation. Can you explain these transactions? Large sums moving through shell companies, all tied to artwork that doesn't seem to exist. Russell's Minnesota fellowship evaporated overnight. The Offering Hospital's board received an anonymous package detailing his unauthorized trials, complete with patient records and pharmaceutical orders. I don't understand, Russell protested during an emergency conference call. Those records were secured, private. Were they? The board chairman's voice was ice. Like the records of your ex-wife's treatment? The one that nearly killed her. Jennifer's attempt to play whistleblower backfired spectacularly. Mason released her recorded conversations through Kelly's media contacts, revealing months of complicity in exchange for social access. Ms. Reeves, her network president, addressed her via video call. We have evidence you knew about these dangerous treatments for months. That you traded silence for exclusive stories. Care to comment? Claire Walsh's social media posts delivered the human element. Years of documented emotional abuse from Russell. Text messages showing his manipulation. Medical records revealing his experimental treatments on her mother. He used me. Claire's viral video testimony rang with raw truth. Used my mom, used Jennifer, used everyone. Then discarded us when we stopped being useful. The climbing community, led by Marcus Rivera's adaptive sports organization, publicly condemned Russell. Former climbing partners shared stories of his reckless behavior, his disregard for safety protocols. Walsh's reputation for risk-taking wasn't just on the mountains, Marcus told reporters. Ask his patients about the chances he took with their lives. Lisa Chun and Miguel Santos provided devastating testimony about medication theft and falsified records. The hospital board's investigation expanded into a criminal probe. Dr. Walsh regularly accessed the dispensary after hours. Lisa presented security logs. Medications disappeared, records were altered. It fits the pattern we found at the clinic. Diego's security footage showed Russell disposing of evidence. Documents shredded, hard drives wiped. But Haley's research contacts had already preserved the crucial data. The drug combinations were deliberately misleading. Haley explained to medical board investigators. They presented them as standard treatments with minor modifications. In reality, they were conducting unauthorized trials on wealthy, desperate patients. Mason's parents watched their empire crumble. The art gallery's insurance company denied coverage for the forged paintings. Richard's firm hemorrhaged clients as regulatory investigations deepened. The Blackwoods are finished in Denver, whispered through social circles. Their reputation is destroyed. Russell, facing multiple investigations, received an unexpected call from one of Diego's contacts, a supposed sympathizer offering an escape route to Mexico. A private clinic in Baja, the contact promised. Away from all this legal pressure. A fresh start. The trap was baited perfectly. Russell grabbed the lifeline, not realizing he was sealing his own exile. Mason monitored the collapse through his network of allies. Each piece fell precisely as planned, each betrayal exposed with perfect timing. You've orchestrated quite a symphony, Haley observed as they reviewed the aftermath. They never saw it coming. They saw what they wanted to see, Mason replied. Just like they always did. Chapter 9, Final Moves. Jennifer's desperate attempt at reconciliation came through her old email account. Mason, please. I was manipulated by Russell, by your parents. We could start fresh. She didn't realize Mason had predicted this move months ago, had planted the seeds that would drive her to it. Kelly Martinez's accidental broadcast of Jennifer's private comments about military veterans hit during prime time. These damaged soldiers. Jennifer's recorded voice dripped contempt. Mason and his PTSD, they're not fit for civilian life. Claire Walsh released screenshots of Jennifer mocking Mason's trauma responses in private messages to Russell. Another nightmare about the helicopter crash. Jennifer had written, so dramatic. At least Russell understands ambition. Veterans organizations responded with unified condemnation. Mason's former military colleagues shared stories of his service, his dedication to saving lives. Dr. Blackwood treated my wounds under enemy fire, a Marine Corps captain told reporters. He never left anyone behind. Unlike some people, Russell's flight to Mexico proceeded according to plan. Diego's cartel-connected cousins ensured his safe house became a gilded cage. Consider it retirement, doctor, they told him. A permanent vacation. Unless you'd prefer we share certain medical records with the authorities? Mason's parents attempted reconciliation through Eleanor's church group. Mason, darling. Eleanor's message pleaded. We're still family. Mason's response came through their lawyers. Their remaining assets, transferred through irrevocable trusts they'd unknowingly signed, went to veterans' charities. You've reserved a small apartment in Nevada, their financial advisor explained. The rest? Well, consider it penance. The final phase completed Mason's transformation from victim to victor. His wilderness medicine program, developed with Marcus Rivera, gained national recognition. We're changing lives, Marcus told him during a training session. Real healing, not Russell's false promises. Haley's research into PTSD treatment, inspired by their growing relationship, opened new paths for veteran care. Your experience helped shape this, she showed him the preliminary results. We're addressing trauma honestly, not hiding it like they wanted you to. Claire Walsh chose medicine, interning at Mason's clinic. I want to heal people, she explained. Really heal them, not exploit them like my father did. Lisa Chun headed the nursing department, implementing strict protocols for medication tracking. Miguel Santos managed facility operations with Diego Ramirez handling security, a team built on loyalty and shared purpose. Kelly Martinez's documentaries about veteran recovery won awards, featuring success stories from Mason's program. The truth makes better stories, she told him. Better than anything Jennifer fabricated. News of Jennifer's fate reached them through Denver gossip circles. A small Minnesota newspaper job, following Russell only to find him pursuing another doctor's wife. Some patterns don't change, Claire commented when she heard. Dad always did prefer married women. More challenging, he said. The Blackwoods adjusted poorly to modest living. Their attempts to rebuild their wealth failed against Mason's financial barriers. Your parents tried accessing the trust funds again, their lawyer reported. The veterans' charities lawyers shut them down completely. Russell survived in Mexico, teaching English with trembling hands. His experimental treatment victims, represented by Marcus Rivera's legal team, received settlements from the Blackwoods' seized assets. Justice comes in many forms, Marcus noted, watching former patients receive their compensation. Sometimes it's about more than money. Mason and Haley's wedding reflected their shared values, small, genuine, surrounded by proven friends. Their honeymoon photo captured a simple sunset by a mountain lake. Claire Walsh stood beside them as maid of honor, her smile genuine unlike Jennifer's society page poses. The transformation was complete. Mason Blackwood emerged stronger, surrounded by authentic relationships built on trust and loyalty. Chapter 10, Aftermath and Ascension. 5 years after the reckoning, Mason's wilderness medicine program had become a model for trauma care. The training center, nestled in the Colorado mountains, combined military experience with innovative treatment approaches. Another successful evacuation, Marcus announced, wheeling in from the helicopter pad. The adaptive climbing techniques worked perfectly. The facility hummed with purposeful activity. Lisa Chin supervised trauma simulations while Miguel Santos coordinated logistics. Diego Ramirez's security teams ensured privacy from unwanted intrusion. Dr. Blackwood, Claire Walsh approached, medical textbooks under her arm. Got a minute to review this treatment protocol? Mason smiled at Russell's daughter, now a promising medical student. Always. How's the research project going? Focusing on ethical patient care, Claire's voice held conviction. Learning from past mistakes. Both my father's and others. Haley's PTSD research had revolutionized veteran care. Her laboratory developed treatments emphasizing honesty and comprehension over quick fixes. The latest trials show significant improvement, she shared during their evening walk. Real healing takes time, but the results last. Kelly Martinez's documentary series brought their work to national attention. Healing Warriors showcased veterans recovering through Mason's program. The network wants another season, Kelly mentioned during a filming break. Your success stories resonate much better than Jennifer's fake exposés. News of their former adversaries arrived sporadically. Jennifer struggled at her Minnesota paper, her attempts at career resurrection blocked by her documented fabrications. She tried submitting a story about medical corruption, Kelly reported. Editor fact-checked it against her history. Rejected immediately. Russell taught basic English in a small Mexican town, his surgical career a fading memory. His hands shook too badly for even simple medical work. The cartel keeps him on a short leash, Diego's cousins confirmed. He won't be returning to practice anywhere. The Blackwoods sent annual apology letters from their Nevada apartment. Mason filed them unopened with his war medals, reminders of battles fought and won. Your parents attempted another investment scheme, their lawyer informed him. The trust fund restrictions caught it immediately. Mason's new family gathered regularly, bound by choice rather than blood. Their barbecues celebrated connection, not social climbing. To real friendship, Marcus raised a glass at one gathering. And to karma, Claire Walsh, nearly finished with medical school, embodied their program's future. We're building something better, she told a group of new interns. Medicine based on healing, not profit. Mason and Haley's relationship deepened through shared purpose. Their work combined his practical experience with her research innovation. Remember when you first came to my lab? She asked during a quiet moment. Looking for ammunition against Russell? Found something better instead, Mason replied. A partner. A future. Their life celebrated substance over appearance, genuine achievement over social position. The transformation from betrayal's ashes proved more valuable than revenge. Mason's story circulated quietly in military circles, a masterclass in strategic patience and carefully chosen allies. The best victories, he told new program participants, come from building something worthwhile, not just destroying what's corrupt. Each year, on his divorce anniversary, Mason hosted his chosen family. They celebrated not the fall of enemies, but the rise of something better. The price of betrayal had been paid. The rewards of integrity proved far greater. In the end, Mason built more than justice. He created a legacy of healing, trust, and genuine human connection. In their mountain home, far from society's superficial measures of success, Mason and Haley lived the truth they'd fought to establish. Their work continued, helping others rebuild from trauma and betrayal. The final victory wasn't revenge, it was transformation. The man they'd tried to destroy had built something stronger, surrounded by people who understood the value of loyalty and truth. Mason's story ended not with destruction, but with creation. His new life stood as testament to resilience, proving that genuine connections outlast superficial success. The betrayers faced consequences, but the betrayed found purpose. In the end, that made all the difference. Epilogue, a decade later. 10 years after Mason Blackwood's calculated revenge transformed into unexpected redemption, his wilderness medicine program had evolved into the nation's premier trauma care center. The Mountain Vista Medical Institute sprawled across 30 acres in the Colorado foothills, combining cutting-edge research with practical training. Dr. Blackwood, a young resident, approached Mason outside the Trauma Simulation Center. The new equipment for the high-altitude rescue program just arrived. Mason nodded, checking his tablet. At 45, his military bearing remained, though strands of gray now peppered his dark hair. Experience had softened his edges without dulling. Have Dr. Walsh supervise the installation, he replied. She wrote the protocols for the new system. Claire Walsh had completed her medical degree with honors, specializing in emergency medicine. Now 32, she'd become the Institute's director of training, transforming her father's betrayal into fuel for positive change. Already on it, Claire emerged from the building, her confident stride matching her father's former grace but carrying none of his arrogance. The modifications for adaptive rescue scenarios are particularly promising. Mason watched her direct the installation team with natural authority. Claire had inherited Russell's surgical skill but combined it with genuine compassion, a healer rather than a performer. Inside his office, Mason found Haley reviewing research data. Their marriage had deepened into a powerful partnership, her scientific expertise complementing his practical experience. The latest PTSD treatment trials are showing remarkable results. Haley looked up from her computer. The combination of wilderness therapy and targeted neurological support is outperforming traditional approaches by 60%. Their work had revolutionized trauma care. Haley's research into the biochemistry of stress responses, inspired by Mason's experiences, had opened new pathways for treatment. The Institute now hosted doctors from around the world, eager to learn their integrated approach. Marcus Rivera rolled into the conference room, his wheelchair modifications showcasing the latest adaptive technology. As chief of patient advocacy, he ensured that every treatment program considered real-world applications. Just finished a video call with the Paralympic Committee, Marcus announced. They want to implement our adaptive wilderness training program nationally. Kelly's documentary about last year's successes convinced them. Kelly Martinez had transformed her network producer role into a platform for meaningful journalism. Her documentary series about the Institute's work won multiple awards, showcasing genuine human stories rather than sensationalized narratives. Speaking of Kelly, Mason checked his messages. Her latest piece on veteran recovery programs is airing tonight. The contrast with traditional approaches is quite striking. Lisa Chun, now the Institute's chief nursing officer, joined them with the day's reports. Her strict protocols for patient care and medication management had become industry standards, adopted by hospitals nationwide. The new nursing certification program is ready to launch. Lisa handed Mason a tablet. Miguel and Diego have already vetted the security protocols. Miguel Santos had risen from hospital custodian to facilities director, his attention to detail ensuring the Institute's complex operations ran smoothly. Diego Ramirez headed security, his team protecting patient privacy. Their conversation was interrupted by an alert on Mason's phone, a news notification that drew their attention. Former journalist Jennifer Reeves released from position at Minnesota Daily Herald amid new fabrication allegations. Multiple sources confirm pattern of misrepresentation continues. Mason dismissed the notification without comment. Jennifer's decline had continued steadily over the years. Each attempt to rebuild her career collapsed under the weight of her past deceptions. Her most recent failure involved fabricating quotes in a local business story, old habits proving impossible to break. "Did you hear about Russell?" Claire asked quietly. "My contacts in Mexico say he's drinking heavily now. The English teaching job barely pays his bills, and his tremors have gotten worse." Russell Walsh's exile had become a cautionary tale in medical circles. Stripped of his surgical credentials and unable to return to the United States, he survived on the margins of the society he'd once dominated. "Your mother's treatment records helped shut down 3 more unauthorized clinics last month," Mason told Claire. Her testimony about Russell's experimental procedures probably saved countless lives. Claire nodded, her expression determined. "That's why our ethics training program is so crucial, making sure future doctors understand the real cost of cutting corners." Haley's research team had documented the long-term effects of Russell's unauthorized trials, using the evidence to develop safer treatment protocols. The findings regularly helped authorities identify and stop similar dangerous operations. "Any word from your parents?" Marcus asked Mason, wheeling to the window overlooking the Institute's grounds. Mason shook his head. Richard and Eleanor Blackwood's annual letters had stopped coming 3 years ago. Their small Nevada apartment and modest pension marked a stark fall from their days as Denver society leaders. "Last I heard, they were trying to join a new country club," Mason replied. "The membership committee discovered their history and declined. Some reputations can't be rebuilt." The Institute's success stood as living proof of that truth. While the Blackwoods struggled to reclaim their social position, Mason's work had earned genuine respect in medical and military circles. "The veterans' charities they unknowingly funded are doing remarkable work," Lisa mentioned. The irony wouldn't be lost on them. Those charities now partnered with the Institute, creating a network of support for traumatized veterans. The funds Mason had redirected from his parents' assets continued generating positive change. Kelly Martinez arrived for the afternoon conference, her camera crew setting up for interviews with program graduates. Her documentaries had replaced Jennifer's sensationalized reporting with authentic stories of recovery and transformation. "You might be interested in this." Kelly handed Mason a tablet. Jennifer tried pitching a story about medical corruption to major networks. They all passed. Seems her reputation preceded her. Mason passed the tablet back without reading it. "Some people never learn. How's the new series coming along?" "Phenomenally," Kelly smiled. "The adaptive sports program is inspiring viewers nationwide. Marcus's team is changing perceptions about disability and recovery." Marcus had developed the Institute's adaptive wilderness program into a model of inclusive adventure therapy. His own journey from trauma to triumph resonated with patients facing similar challenges. "Claire," Mason turned to Russell's daughter, "how are the new protocols working for high-altitude rescues?" "Better than expected." Claire pulled up data on the main screen. "The combined medical and climbing expertise is reducing evacuation times by 30%. were saving more lives in critical conditions. The Institute's rescue programs had evolved far beyond Russell's showy climbing achievements. Claire's team emphasized safety and efficiency over dramatic gestures, their success measured in lives saved rather than media attention. Miguel Santos entered with facility updates, his management style reflecting the Institute's emphasis on precise attention to detail. The new simulation center is ready for tomorrow's training session. Diego's team has implemented all security measures. Diego Ramirez's security protocols protected more than physical assets. They safeguarded patient privacy and research data with sophisticated systems. His team included several veterans, their military experience enhancing the Institute's operational security. Dr. Blackwood, a nurse appeared at the door. The new group of combat medics has arrived for orientation. Mason stood, straightening his white coat. These training sessions held special meaning. Chances to share hard-won wisdom with others who understood the real cost of battlefield medicine. Coming full circle, Haley observed, touching his arm gently. From combat medic to medical innovator. The Institute's main lecture hall filled with young medics, their faces reflecting the same dedication Mason had brought to his military service. He looked out over the audience, remembering his own journey from trauma to transformation. "Welcome to Mountain Vista," he began. "You've come here because you understand that real medicine isn't about social status or professional acclaim. It's about one simple truth. Every life has value, and every patient deserves our absolute best." In the years since his revenge had transformed into redemption, Mason had discovered that the best response to betrayal wasn't destruction but creation. The Institute stood as proof that genuine purpose outlasted superficial success. Later that evening, Mason and Haley walked the Institute's grounds, watching the sunset paint the mountains. Their home, built on the property, represented everything they'd achieved together. "Did you ever imagine this?" Haley asked, gesturing at the sprawling facility. "When you first started planning your revenge?" Mason considered the question. "No, I thought justice meant watching them fall. Instead, it meant building something better than they could imagine." Their conversation was interrupted by Claire hurrying toward them, tablet in hand. "We just got approved for the international expansion. 3 new facilities next year. 1 in Germany, 1 in Japan, and 1 in Australia." The Institute's approach to trauma care had attracted global attention. Medical centers worldwide sought to replicate their integrated model of treatment and training. "Kelly wants to document the expansion," Claire continued. "Show how the program adapts to different cultural contexts while maintaining core principles." Mason nodded, remembering how his original plan for revenge had evolved into this mission of healing. The contrast between his current purpose and his enemy's fates proved that karma worked in unexpected ways. Jennifer remained trapped in her pattern of deception, each failed attempt at resurrection driving her further from redemption. Russell taught basic English to disinterested students, his trembling hands a constant reminder of his fall. The Blackwoods lived in obscurity, their social ambitions reduced to rejected club applications. But Mason's chosen family continued growing stronger. Claire honored her mother's suffering by protecting future patients. Marcus turned his injury into inspiration for others. Kelly transformed journalism from a weapon into a tool for positive change. Lisa, Miguel, and Diego proved that loyalty and competence mattered more than social position. Haley's research saved lives instead of risking them for profit. Together, they built something that touched thousands of lives. The next orientation group arrives Monday. Claire checked her schedule. Former combat medics from 3 different countries. They're especially interested in the PTSD research. Mason smiled, understanding their journey. Like him, they'd learned that trauma could destroy or transform. The choice lay in how you channeled the experience. Have them start with the wilderness program, he decided. Let them see how natural challenges can rebuild confidence. The Institute's success proved that the best revenge wasn't destroying enemies, but building something they couldn't touch. Mason's story had evolved from a tale of betrayal into a legacy of healing. As night fell over the mountains, Mason and Haley headed home, leaving the Institute humming with activity. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, new opportunities to transform trauma into triumph. Their victory wasn't measured in their enemies' defeats, but in the lives they'd touched. The price of betrayal had been paid in full, but the rewards of integrity proved endless. Mason's chosen family continued growing, bound not by blood but by shared purpose. The final lesson emerged clearly. True success meant building something worthwhile, not just tearing down what was corrupt. Mason's journey from betrayed husband to medical innovator showed that the best transformation wasn't revenge but rebirth. 10 years after his world shattered, Mason Blackwood had built something stronger than vengeance, a legacy of healing that would outlast all the betrayals that sparked its creation. His story became more than personal vindication. It proved that genuine purpose could transform even the deepest wounds into sources of healing for others. The Mountain Vista Medical Institute stood as testament to this truth, its work touching lives far beyond the original scope of Mason's revenge. In the end, he'd achieved something his enemies could never comprehend: genuine, lasting impact built on integrity rather than appearance. The betrayers remained trapped in their patterns, but the betrayed had found freedom through purpose. That difference marked the true victory, not in destroying what was corrupt, but in building something incorruptible. Mason's chosen family gathered regularly to celebrate this truth, their bonds strengthened by shared purpose rather than social obligation. They'd transformed betrayal's bitter lessons into tools for healing, proving that the best revenge was living well and helping others do the same. The story that began with betrayal ended with transformation, not just for Mason, but for everyone his new purpose touched. In creating the Institute, he'd built something his enemies could never achieve, a legacy of genuine positive change that would continue long after personal vengeance lost its meaning. This was the final victory, not watching enemies fall, but helping others rise. Mason's journey proved that true justice sometimes meant building something better than revenge. The price of betrayal had been paid, but the rewards of integrity continued growing, touching lives far beyond the original circle of revenge. The Mountain Vista Medical Institute stood as living proof that the best response to destruction was creation. Mason's chosen family had transformed betrayal's lessons into tools for healing, their work creating ripples of positive change that would continue long after personal grievances faded into history. In the end, Mason built more than justice. He created opportunity for countless others to transform their own trauma into triumph. That legacy, more than any revenge, marked his true victory over those who tried to destroy him. The story that began in betrayal ended in purpose, proving that the best transformation wasn't destroying enemies, but building something they couldn't touch. Mason's journey from victim to healer showed that true success meant creating positive change rather than pursuing personal vengeance. 10 years later, this truth continued guiding the Institute's work, touching lives far beyond the original scope of Mason's revenge. His chosen family remained strong, bound by shared purpose rather than social obligations, their work proving that genuine connections outlasted superficial success. The final lesson was clear: real victory meant building something worthwhile, not just tearing down what was corrupt. Mason's legacy would continue through countless lives touched by the Institute's work, each success proving that integrity's rewards far outweighed revenge's satisfaction. This is where our story comes to an end. Share your thoughts in the comments section. Thanks for your time. If you enjoy this story, please subscribe to this channel. Click on the video you see on the screen, and I will see you there.